Yesterday we were learning the dinim of things that the Chacham forbade out of danger. And somebody's not allowed to say, I don't care, I'll risk my life and do it anyway. Okay, so it says like this. Last thing we learned is you're not allowed to go under a shaky bridge. You're not allowed to go on you're not allowed to go under a wall that might collapse. You're not allowed to walk on a shaky bridge. Okay, now the next thing over here is like this interesting thing. A lot of people aren't aware of it. It's not very practical today for the reason I'll say in a second. And that is you're not allowed to sleep alone in the house. Now halacha says if there's a light on in the room, or even a little tiny light, then it doesn't matter. Okay, so but the Gemara says it has to do with ayin hara, sakana. It has to do with a lot of reasons. Shadin. So it says that you're not allowed to sleep in a house alone at night. You're not allowed to sleep in a cemetery, which is not a good idea to do anyway. Okay, now the Rebbe continues like this. You're not allowed to put food or drink under a bed, even if it's in a package, it's covered. You're not supposed to put food or drink under a bed. The reason for that is because there's a ruach ra when you sleep. So if somebody sleeps on the bed at night, there's a impure spirit on the bed, and that 1 second. That goes to the food. It said, even if it's covered in a metal container, it's a problem. Now the Rebbe doesn't say, now there's another whole question, halacha. Let's say somebody, in the morning you have to wake up, you have to wash what's called negelwasser. Yep? What happens if you didn't and you touched food? So why do you have to wash, now we learned, why do you have to wash your hands in the morning? Because there's a ruach ra, there's an evil spirit from sleeping, from the night, both together, whatever. So how do you take it off? When you wash alternating 3 times in each hand, that removes the ruach ra. But otherwise, there's a ruach ra in your hands. So what happens if somebody touches food without washing netilas yadayim? They just touch food. So halachically, most opinions say you could eat it anyway. You shouldn't touch food if you didn't wash negelwasser. By the way, that only applies to Jews. Because if you have a housekeeper who's not Jewish and they touch food without, it doesn't matter. Even kids, little kids under bar and bat mitzvah, you could also be more lenient about it because they don't have such a ruach ra, because they don't have the neshama completely in the body yet like it is bar and bat mitzvah. So he says, but the Rebbe doesn't say the Rebbe here doesn't say you shouldn't eat it. He says you shouldn't put food or drink under a bed because there's a ruach ra, even if it's covered. What did you want?
Yeah, so the sleeping, yeah. How detailed around this, because practically the bottom of a ship, you could be sleeping on this cabin and the whole bottom of the ship is food. Like, what does that mean? Mamish underneath the bed? Like,
okay, so let me ask you a very more practical question.
Yeah.
You're on a plane.
Yeah.
You put your hand luggage, let's say the food you bring on, this whatever.
Right.
You put it under the seat in front of you. It's an overnight flight. The guy in front of you sleeps. Everybody else sleeps except you. You can't sleep on a plane. But everybody else seems to sleep on a plane. So now the question is 2 things. Can you eat that food? Is there an issue putting food under that seat?
If we're going technical, it wasn't a bed.
Okay, 1 minute.
Depends if it's...
And secondly, another question. If you slept on the plane, you have to wash negelwasser.
After 30 minutes, yeah.
Where are you going to buy? But you put negelwasser near the bed, near the seat?
So you go against the seat.
Okay. No, okay. So the pearl is discussed in contemporary halacha, obviously not in early halacha. The seat of a plane is not a bed. It's a seat. If somebody falls asleep, I'll give you an example. A rabbi gets up to speak, people fall asleep. Yes? That's reality. They fall asleep. Now, under the seat, is that called a bed? It's not a bed, it's a seat, it's a chair. It's not a bed. Okay? So that's not an issue. Even negavas on the plane, nobody washing. And in the morning, if you're supposed to work because you're up all night anyway. Okay, so that's one aspect of this din. You should be careful not to put, a lot of times people don't have a lot of storage in the house, so they store food under the bed, water, cases of water or whatever. Halacha says you really shouldn't do it because there is an impure spirit that comes underneath the bed. Now, does it go from floor to floor? No. If you have a bedroom on the second floor, the kitchen's on, it doesn't go that far. It goes to the floor, that's it. Now there's another din, a lot of people are aware of it, a lot of people are unaware of it. There's a Gemara in Nida. The Gemara says, you're not allowed to eat peeled garlic, peeled onions, or an egg peeled overnight. If it was left overnight, in other words, what happens, give you a simple example, you're cutting an onion, okay? You don't want to use the whole onion. So you use half the onion. What do you do with the other half of the onion? Put it in the fridge. Yeah? You use it in a day or 2 or 3 or 4. So the din is, in Shechona Aretz, we'll discuss the details in a second, you're not supposed to eat that onion. Unless, if you leave, on the top of the onion, those few hairs over there, whatever they call them. If that's left on it, there's no problem. So let's say you have an onion, okay, and the onion has a top on it. So if you cut the onion and leave the top on the onion, then that onion you could put away, there's no problem, you could use it.
Why does that?
Because that's what the Gemara says and Shechona Aruch says. He says, if you have a little bit, for instance, ikram, which is the head on top of the garlic or the onion, or you put in there, let's say you have a hard-boiled egg, and you leave a little bit of the peel on the egg. Or this then applies not only to hard-boiled eggs. If you crack open eggs, okay, now you have eggs raw eggs, the peeled in a plate, okay, and you thought you're going to use them, you don't use them. You put them in the fridge to use in a day or 2. The dinner is you're not supposed to eat those eggs.
Remarkably about onion, most old nutritionists now say do not ever use a half onion that you used before.
Okay, so the same thing applies to garlic, by the way. Now, garlic, when you unpeel them, okay, so now you have the garlic, peeled garlic. Those cannot be left overnight.
But there's little stems there's little tiny...
No, that's not. You're talking about on the top of the.
When you pull one piece...
I understand, but still, you're not talking about that little... Okay, if that little piece, it could be makel, by the way, but it's still, most people cut it off.
Correct, so if you buy peeled garlic...
Okay, so now one second. Now, there's a heter that Pos can bring, that what happens, I'll give you an example. You have egg salad. You have egg salad in the fridge, yeah? Or you're having a malava malka Saturday night and you're going to serve egg salad. Or you're going to have a bris, you're going to serve egg salad. So you make it the day before and you leave it overnight. Why is egg salad not a problem? Because if other things are mixed into it, there's no problem. So some people, if they cut an onion, let's say, and they want to leave it overnight, and they didn't leave over that top over there, they'll pour a little onion into it, or they'll pour a little oil, oil, salt, whatever. They because then it's not the plain garlic. It's a food.
It could be anything. It doesn't have to be salt or oil.
What are you gonna put in?
A little water, hypothetically.
No, not the Therefore, by the way, it's a very interesting issue. A lot of people today don't go by these things. It says, for instance, if you walk into the stores, you'll find containers of peeled garlic with an OU.
Right.
Now, we wouldn't eat that. Why? Because it's peeled garlic left over. They don't put anything into it.
But the little thing on the
They
top,
don't. No.
No, because my wife buys it, but only the one with the little thing on the top.
Okay, but here in Shechona Aruch it says the sa'ar, the hair that's on the top of the shum and or the onion. So I don't know if those little it could be that it's good enough. But the mashal, there's no problem with onion powder or garlic powder. You buy onion, right, for the chons. You put an onion powder, garlic powder, yeah? So that's not an issue. Why isn't that an issue? Because it's not garlic and it's not onion. Yeah, it's powder. It's not the onion anymore.
What if you blend the onion, you know, you make it into a blend,
and then you don't add anything. You should add a little bit of oil or salt or something into it. Is better.
So the green dot, I'm sorry, this is what we got, is not sufficient, you're saying?
The green dot?
When you get peeled garlic from Western, they sell it, and each one you can visibly see there's a green stem still in there. So I might cut
That's fine.
Oh, I think you said the garlic stem is insufficient.
It's better, but if that's the way the stem of the garlic is, it should be good.
Yeah, it's a stem that you talk
Some people are makel if it's in the refrigerator, so it's not open, so it's not the roch ra. I mean, there's a lot of leniencies. That's why the kashrus organizations give a hechsher on those things, even though many people wouldn't eat it because of that. But garlic powder is not an issue. Onion powder is not an issue because it's not, again, it's not garlic because it's not... and the same thing, okay, this a lot more people are makel on. It says in halacha, if you leave water in a metal keli overnight, you shouldn't drink the water. This already, many more people are much lenient about it today. Something has to do with snakes a little bit. There's other issues involved. But the pearl today, the world is 90% of the world is makel.
What about Friday night? You can have a coffee shop.
Some poskim write Shabbos b'chal doesn't apply.
That's only metal keli, right?
Metal keli.
If it's a plastic keli, would that
Plastic keli, but I'm saying if you have an urn overnight, it's metal, or a chainik, a kettle. In fact, there's a story. One second. There's a story with Reb Marash. Chassidim once came to Reb Marash, and they brought out to the table on Shabbos morning a kettle with a metal kettle with hot water in it. So the Chassidim started talking between themselves, overnight water and metal. They were starting Shabbat. Anyway, I think it was the Rebbetzin of the Reb Marash, Rebbe Sanifka, came out, and she called them into the kitchen, and she showed them in the kitchen. It was a big earthenware samovar, earthenware urn, was not metal, and then they just poured from that into the metal kettle to bring to the table. But it wasn't, she showed him it wasn't a metal keli to begin with.
So, the metal keli is covered. That's still
No, even if it's covered. This is what I'm saying. Today a lot of people are lenient about it.
But in this case, it was on Shabbat. Shabbat
So a lot poskim write Shabbos, it doesn't apply. Shabbos and Yom Tov, yeah.
I heard people, I saw actually someone that didn't have it because it was in overnight.
Some people, you should know, I'll give you an example, will have, let's say, an urn for Shabbos, but like Saturday night, if they want to take a hot cup of tea, they'll spill it out and put it, there are a lot of people. But again, halachically, the world is, poskim right, the world is...
It's not necessary to pour it out. I pour it out and make a shower.
Again, if you do it, it's better, obviously. Okay. Machat shim is a meisem, mechabei b'mayim, kim shivla agal, teira b'chanan, mekashe med.